listening to the MPI Paranormal Podcast, where the truth is to be found. A podcast exploring all things paranormal, hauntings, UFOs, crypto, the unknown. Our members believe in the skeptical approach, but with an open mind, just trying to make sense of it all.
I want to get back in there, try to figure that out, because it is the unknown.
I don't really have a say on it right now because I don't know what the video looks like.
I'm looking for the evidence. What's the evidence? A story to me is not really evidence because that's one person's experience.
Right.
And I take my personal beliefs into it, but like you said, then I have my skeptical side that wants to prove it another way.
Military Paranormal Investigations is not affiliated to any branch of the military. It's time! Coming to you from North Texas on multiple platforms for maximum reach. Here are your hosts, members of the MPI team.
And welcome to MPI's first Skype podcast. My name is Rob.
I'm
Mike.
I got you guys.
And I'm Jeff.
This is how it's going to be.
Yeah, this is how it's going to be. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm Rob. Got that one out there. So we got Jeff sitting right above me, and then over in the corner, right over there, as you can see, there's Mike sitting up there. And the reason that we're doing a Skype podcast, probably because you guys are in the same situation that we are with COVID-19. Yeah, everyone is sheltering in place, so make sure you are sheltering in place as well. And we're trying to put the content out there so that you can listen to our podcast, gives you something to do instead of doing all the binge watching that I've been doing. Be safe, wash your hands, and always do the social distancing.
Yeah.
If you're listening to us, you're probably listening to us on Podbean. You can find us on militaryparanormal.com. Mike is constantly doing something with the website, so great job, Mike. It's looking good. Let us know how it's looking on your end. Send us a comment or a like, and then you can also find us. Yeah, go for it.
Let me know if there's any problems. Different devices have different displays, and I've been kind of messing with that a little bit. So let me know if you have any problems on your end, and I'll make sure I get that taken care of.
You can also find us on social media, Facebook at Military Paranormal, all one word, Twitter at MPI_paranormal, Instagram, Military Paranormal, all one word, and you can find us on YouTube, search Military Paranormal, one word.
And right now we're sitting at 92 subscribers. We only need 8 more, and then we can have our own URL. So come on, people. You got nothing better to do? You're sitting at home? I know, I'm begging for it. Come on.
On that note, we just put out our first good video that we've done in a while. We actually produced for YouTube, and we had some more things planned for you guys. Unfortunately, this whole shelter-in-place thing kind of got rid of a couple of investigations that we were going on to record some information. So if you haven't seen that yet, I did a video on my paranormal go bag, like my everyday carry bag, and go check that out over at youtube.com.
And also, streaming platforms, we are testing right now, but we do have the capability to going live. This one is pre-recorded, but when we do go live, you can find us on Facebook Live. You can find us on YouTube, not only the MPI channel, but also Undiscovered Origins. That's Mike's YouTube channel. Go check that one out. You can find us on Mixer, Twitch, DLive, Discord, Mob Crush, and Periscope, which is actually broadcasting to Twitter. Now, all those right there, all you got to do is go to Military Paranormal, one word, and you should be able to find it. I tried to make it easy by getting us out there. So go out there, leave us a comment, and we also have a chat box. So if you're on one of those streaming platforms and you want to ask us a question while we are live, go right ahead. We can get it, and then we can answer it out there on the streaming platform.
Yeah, you can also call us at 940-437-4674 or 437-4MPI.
And finally,
okay.
also the podcast one. You can do it at podcast@militaryparanormal.com.
Okay, so what are we going to do on this show today?
Well, we actually have some listener stories. We had a couple people write in, and we thought we would get that out and share that out to you guys to keep everybody energized. Maybe send us some more stories that we can pass along.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So it's going to be more of a reading from. We actually have 3 different encounters, if you would. The first ones that we're going to talk about is actually from our listeners, Kevin Studebaker. He had 2 occurrences, if I'm not mistaken, Mike.
He had 2, and then he shared another one a friend of his had.
Okay, and then after that, we will have from one of our own paranormal investigators, Stephanie. She's actually out in California. She's moved into a new place, and she's had some stuff going on there, so I'll read what she's been sending us as well. So with that, who wants to start with Ken's story?
Kevin.
Kevin.
Did I say Ken? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Kevin Studebaker. I'm sorry. Did not mean to say Ken.
Okay, I'll start off. The name of your group caught my attention, being prior military, retired Army reservist with over 15 years of active duty and 13 years as a ready reservist. He had 3 overseas tours, 2 combat tours, and 5 stateside assignments. During the time, he had 2 paranormal encounters that he could not explain. The stone tape theory is what I lean to as an explanation. The stone tape theory is the speculation that ghosts and hauntings are analogous to tape recordings, and that mental impressions during emotional or traumatic events can be projected in the form of energy.
And that's
recorded on.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Onto rocks and other items and replayed under certain conditions.
And that's like
so
what
that's
you were talking. Yeah.
I was going to say, it's just kind of like our theory of residual type is I've always correlated it to like a tape, a VCR tape.
Right.
Somebody goes over an area, a certain path every day for years on end, a certain part of their energy gets stored, and it just plays over and over and over again. That's how I see it anyways.
No, that's basically our theory. When it comes to a residual haunt, there's something there that energy has been imprinted on, and it just constantly plays it over and over again. So I know when we talked about one of our earlier podcasts, the types of hauntings, we did talk about residual hauntings, and that's basically what it is. So that's the same thing as the stone tape theory. It's the stone, depending on what it's made out of, is acting kind of like a recorder itself.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read his first story here, and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
My first unexplained encounter was while stationed at the old Walter Reed Army Hospital in D.C. in 1980. At that time, some of the older wooden hospital wards still existed, but were unused and closed off. The doors chained and padlocked. One such ward had a connecting hallway at one end that ran perpendicular, connecting at least 4 similar wards. This hallway was left unlocked and unused as a shortcut between the main hospital and the enlisted barracks of the Abrams Hall during inclement weather. I was returning to the barracks late one night after going to the DFAC, or as we knew it, Chow Hall, for midrats. Now, explain what midrats is if you worked in the evening time up to maybe midnight, you would go over to the chow hall and get what they call mid-rats or midnight rations, food. So that's what he's talking about there. It was raining, accompanied by intermittent lightning, hence the covered shortcut. The hallway was several hundred feet long, interspersed with windows on the left. The walls on the right held bulletin boards to one side of each opening to the adjacent wards. The entrances to each chained and padlocked. There were no other lights except the hallway. The entrance and the exit doors were the old standard wood doors with brass push handles, which made a very distinct sound when opening and closing. I had entered the hallway and was the only person in it as I began to walk to the other end, I heard the door close behind me, and my footsteps echoed off the walls as I walked. Approximately halfway, I heard the sound of one of the doors opening and slamming shut behind me, and the sounds of footsteps. I glanced behind me to see it might be. No one was there. I could still hear the footsteps walking down the hallway approaching me. I stopped and backed against the wall and looked around towards the other end and back. No one was there in the hallway. I could track the sounds of the footsteps approaching me, then passing, but saw nothing. The steps continued for a few more seconds and then faded away. I had no explanation then or now, and I checked the other wards verifying they were closed and locked. There was no ventilation, no explanation. I spoke to other people and asked them if they had experienced anything strange in that hallway. None had the same experience. However, some said they felt creeped out going through there at night like they were being watched. The footsteps sounded like hard sole shoes walking fast, rhythmic and sounding like a man.
Interesting.
It is.
Could you imagine if walls could talk, what would come out of Walter Reed?
Oh man!
Oh, good Lord!
That would be incredible. That would be incredible.
That's like any military hospital, if the walls could talk. I mean, even Shepherd's up here, even though a lot of the floors now are abandoned. The old psych ward that was up there. I mean, we've been up there, and I remember basically almost the same thing when we were up there. We heard the footsteps because we had taken the Boy Scouts. Was it the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts? It was a scout troop.
It was the Girl Scouts.
The Girl Scouts.
I think it was the Girl Scouts, I believe. Anyways, it was the Scouts.
Yeah, it was the Scouts. It's no longer different now. It's all Scouts. But we took them up there, and in the old ward, we actually heard footsteps. And then when we were coming out of there, we actually heard doors closing behind us. And that's when you and I really wanted to stay up there. We were like, ooh, let's go.
Yeah, but we couldn't. You know what, though, as I was reading that again, it made me think back to, Rob, at the time of you and I at Fort Richardson.
Fort Richardson. I was thinking the same thing.
Yep, we heard the footsteps coming towards me there on the wooden plank around the outside of the hospital.
I want to interject here because when you talk about hearing footsteps, a lot of people will think of like hearing a haunted footstep. You may think of like settling of a house or something. But if you've ever heard real footsteps like that, I mean, it is indescribably just like somebody walking. I mean, you can't. It's not like just one or two clicks here or there. You can. I mean, if you've ever heard that type of event, it's actually click, 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 click. You can hear, and there's no doubt in your mind that's what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rob.
That's the problem we're going to have here with this Skype podcast. It's just like the last investigation that we went on up in Kansas. We had claims of footsteps going up and down that stairwell. When we got there, we didn't hear any, but during the audio recordings, we did pick up footsteps. And I mean, it's footsteps, and we know it wasn't us is because we weren't in there.
Yeah.
So it had to come. Footsteps had to have been there. Now, that's the only thing. But we had no way of knowing where those footsteps were coming from. But we get that kind of thing all the time. Is the footsteps out there?
When it's like that last house, that's a common occurrence that happens in my house is footsteps, and it's very different than like a settling type sound. But that last investigation we did of Allison's property. We caught that recording in there, and that was very obvious.
Oh,
and all of us were outside of the building.
And that was on carpet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you could hear that shuffle. That you could hear it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But there's voice with that as well.
With
but
this
real quick.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Go ahead.
No,
I was just saying, wanted to go back real quick to that stone tape theory. You know, a lot of the belief is that like limestone and those kind of things can also enhance paranormal activity. What is your take on that?
Mine? Or Mike?
Yeah,
Mike,
both of you.
Mike, you go first.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was changing screen here. Can you repeat that last part? And I kind of a little cut out.
You know, we've always heard talk about the different types of stone that can enhance paranormal activity, you know, like limestone and quartz and that kind of stuff. What is your take on that?
Well, you know, I think it's extremely possible. When you look, there's actually been scientific study done talking about resonance frequencies and things like that. I mean, you think about a clock and quartz and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think that it's extremely possible to at least magnify maybe a magnetic field or make a magnetic field or an energy field that's in an area, maybe make it expand where you have a bigger area of occurrence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. How about you, Rob?
Well, we have talked about this a little bit on a previous podcast, kind of, when we did the crystal skulls. And we were talking about the crystals and how crystals can maintain that energy, which is why a lot of people use crystals when they're doing different things. When it comes to paranormal, it comes to healing, they believe in the energy coming from the crystals. So why couldn't there be? I mean, it would make sense that, I mean, there's a lot of things out there that are keeping that energy some way. So why couldn't that kind of be? I mean, look at batteries and how you have that solid state. It's nothing more than minerals, really. I mean, granted, with the batteries are keeping that kinetic energy in there, but it's energy has to go somewhere. Energy never dies. It just goes somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Who's got the second story?
You don't want to read the one with all the hard words in it? I'll try it, but I'll probably butcher. That way Rob can do Stephanie's story.
Okay, cool.
All right. The other instance occurred while stationed in Germany at Schwäbisch Gmünd. Am I close? At Bismarck Kaserne.
Yeah.
I wasn't ever in Germany like that. Okay. But anyway, the barracks had been built and used by the Nazis in the 30s through World War II. Although refurbished, there was still plenty of signs to show the German army had occupied them, including racks for Mauser rifles built into the halls of the barracks. Only the indentations of where the rifle butts and upper stocks fit were still there. No metal racks or chains were present. One night I heard the sounds of marching boots hitting the floor in unison and the sounds of chains being pulled through what sounded like racks. My roommate and I both were awakened and turning on the light, looked at each other and got up to see what was going on. The sounds had stopped and we went out into the hallway and other soldiers had heard the same thing and had come out. We walked out and everyone had heard the same thing. I went back to bed but did not manage to sleep the rest of the night. These sounds never happened again while I was stationed there. My thought on something like this is when we talk about how, like battlefields, storing all that emotion and that energy and all of that, during the war, regardless of which side you were on, you could imagine young soldiers getting up, marching, ready to go out to battle, and all of that emotion that's going on there. I definitely think that that's something that could be stored, especially in one of these buildings, these old buildings full of stone, and I just think it's a big possibility that's feasible.
Well,
does that make sense?
I mean, if you guys remember when we did the Pease Battle River area, we actually captured what sounded like drums being beat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there again, we caught something that was residual. So yeah, I think you're right, Mike. Those battlefields and those kind of areas, through whether it be blood or whatever, the energy is absorbed into the ground and it stores that energy.
Right. And even though this isn't technically a battlefield, but again, imagine, thousands of troops getting up to, I remember when I deployed during wartime, as we were all getting on the plane and got our General Patton speech and we were getting on the plane. That's what I remember more than anything sometimes. It's that's that emotion. Like I said, even in the barracks where these soldiers were at when it necessarily wasn't a battle, but the amount of emotion that was going on as they were preparing for that.
Yeah.
Well, that's like one of the reasons why we picked military paranormal is because of the military battlegrounds. We theorized that a lot of the activity could happen there, and since how we were military, why not go to these locations, find out the history, and then see if there is a correlation with the death and mayhem and all the blood, like you said, the blood going into the ground. Did the ground retain that residual energy coming from all the death and mayhem?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people do Gettysburg and all of those areas, and you see a lot of different apparitions and EVPs and all that kind of stuff. So there's got to be something to the theory.
And I wasn't stationed in Germany, but I lived in Germany when my dad was stationed there, and they had all sorts of all these old buildings. I mean, you went to all the old monasteries, the old forts, the old
the old castles.
The castles, yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of stories out there. That's why they have Ghost Hunters International, because of all these locations.
Well, and then I do know, my son was in Germany for a while, and there's more than just battle legends that come out of there. There's a whole lot of old history, vampires and werewolves, and there's a lot of stuff that's in Germany. So I think it'd be really interesting to go, check out that area.
Well, that's why if you read some of the German history, especially during the Nazi times, they were looking for these paranormal connections, especially like you said, with the werewolves, the Nazi werewolves. So it's out there.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Also, I'll read this last story. This is one of a friend of his that she didn't want her name told us. She didn't want any a negative attention brought to her, but she was attending the Armed Force Institute of Pathology at Walter Reed. She said that while working on her notes at a table in the morgue exam room after class, she heard the sounds of a morgue locker door opening and the tray table sliding out. She said she looked up and observed one of the locker doors was open and an empty tray had been slid out. No one else was in the room. She said that she was pretty shocked, believing that all the locker doors had been closed. She left the building, checking out with the security guard, and asked if anyone else was inside. She said the guard replied that no one was left, and he was just waiting on her to make his rounds. He asked her if anything happened. When she told him what happened, he did not seem surprised and told her that this happened to others as well. She said that she told me that she always made sure never to be the last out and never be alone in that morgue after that.
Wow.
That's
kind of creepy. It's funny because, when you look at the paranormal hobby field, whatever, all the little aspects of paranormal, lots of people are associated with cemeteries, but I never really thought that cemeteries necessarily were a hot spot to me, in my opinion. Does that make sense? However, a morgue or somewhere where maybe the first time that a spirit, if you want to take that, someone's died and now their spirit's there, and just now realizing that they've left their body or what have you. I think that morgues and that type of stuff could have a potential there. You always see lots of stories of hauntings and morgues or old houses that used to be a morgue that's like severely haunted now.
Right.
So anyway, I think that could be a very interesting take on it. I couldn't work in a morgue anyway, but
I couldn't either. No, there was. I don't know if it was you, Jeff, or if it was Kevin. I'm pretty sure it might have been Kevin. It had to have been Kevin. When we were moving from our old building, the ones that they tore down, to the new building across from the NCO Academy. Behind the NCO Academy, that's where DFAB is, or
FACD,
yeah. But it used to be the medical schoolhouse, and on the third floor, they actually had the old where they did the autopsies. They taught them how to do autopsies there. And I was given the tour by one of the old building custodians, and they had the slabs on the third floor but the morgue, the cooler, was on the first floor. They took him in the elevator and brought him up there for the students to learn how to do work on the cadavers. Well, the elevator broke a couple times, so they actually had to take them down the stairwell on the back one, the one that's close to. Well, I happen to have my audio recorder because you know me, I like carrying that sucker around. And when we were in there, just when he was giving us the layout, I actually got an EVP, and I wish I could find it. I'm still looking for it. I can clearly hear it saying, "Don't drop me."
Wow.
Cool.
And I was trying to find that all over the place, and I want to find that one. But yeah, if Kevin was still here with us, he could tell you that story too, because it was freaking us out, because we were like, are you serious? It says "Don't drop me," and we couldn't believe that. So yeah, morgues, I believe it can hold a lot of stuff there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, so before we do Stephanie's, does anyone need to take a break? Otherwise, I'll
Why don't we take?
All right.
Why don't we take just a few minute break, and then we'll come back.
All right.
Mike, that's for you.
Commercial.
One small step for Eddie, one giant leap for paranormal investigators. Meet the EDI Plus, the most feature-packed ghost hunting multimeter with graphing all in one tough package. Eddie has become a solid tool for investigators all over the world in just a few years on mission. Now the EDI Plus launches even further with more features for precision measurement, alerts, and timeline charting of the data. The EDI Plus detects EMF, temperature, vibration, pressure, and humidity with immediate response lights and sound alerts. But it doesn't stop there. Eddie then logs this information for graphing together on a timeline for thorough analysis using a free application developed specifically for the EDI Plus. Eddie is a stellar advancement in precision measurement and ease for paranormal investigators. Launch your investigations into the next stage of discovery with the EDI Plus. Available now only at ghoststop.com.
Welcome back to The Truth Is to Be Found podcast with your host, members from the MPI team.
And welcome back to the first ever Military Paranormal Investigation Skype podcast. Once again, I am Rob.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Mike. I waited for you that time. It's a little interesting doing this over Skype because we keep talking over each other. We typically, when we're in the room, we can kind of read each other's expressions, and I've got my notes up, and I got little bitty windows, so it's kind of hard to see.
Yeah, I'm the same way. So, like I said, welcome back to our podcast. Don't forget, you can find us on militaryparanormal.com. You can find us on Podbeam. When we start doing live, you got Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitch, Twitch, Mixer, all those different live streaming, even the gaming channel live streams that you can find us out there. So before we left, we were doing stories from our listeners, and we just listened to 3 of them from a listener. Hopefully he's listening out there, from Kevin Studebaker. And now we have Stephanie, a former member. She recently moved to California, and she texted me probably about a month and a half ago, saying that there was some really crazy stuff going on in her home, and we've just been texting back and forth, and I was hoping to get her on here, seeing how we are doing the shelter in place, but we just can't seem to reach her because she's always busy. She's a really busybody, always going with all her kids and everything. So I figured what I would do is read the text messages that she sent me and kind of like give you a story and a background in there. So it starts off, I had some crazy stuff, and she didn't use the word stuff, going on in this house I just moved into, and I'm not bleeping kidding at all. Everyone I had come into, and if you know Stephanie, they know what I'm talking about. She says, everyone, and I do mean everyone, and it's in bold capital letters, I have had come into here has either heard something or felt something. And of course, I never say anything about this, but they approach me and ask me about it anyways. But I mean tons. Pretty much daily, I hear things, and not quiet things either, very loud things. Doors shutting, the sound of boxes falling, but upon looking around, I can't see any boxes that had fallen. Sometimes it sounds like someone or something is digging through the boxes, or it sounds like paper shuffling. I heard it from the same room I was in. The sound one time of a box being bumped and then brushed against, like sound of fabric rubbing against a cardboard box. A very distinct sound. But I was the only one in the house, and I was not near a box. Night before last, I heard a door shut from elsewhere in the house. I get up and close my door and turn the TV on volume so I can just ignore it. Now, if you know Stephanie, she's one of the ones that just likes to go out there. She's ADD, if you would. So she likes to go and do stuff. And with us being the paranormal investigators, if stuff happens in our own house, we're not really going to investigate it because we don't want it to negatively affect our household. So we just live with it and have someone else come in there. So with her saying that all she did was turn the volume up and go, I can understand that. So about a week later, I text her, said, hey, what any updates or anything? She goes, well, when I woke up yesterday morning, my door was open. And I'm assuming she meant her front door. Also, the other night, you remember the house on the hill when we heard the crystal bell? She had a big house up there, and there's a crystal bell that always kept chiming, and we couldn't figure out why. She goes, well, I heard it again here. The same 3 crystal bell rings. Well, I just learned some stuff about the house, and apparently rumor has it in the area this house is very haunted. No one ever stays here very long. And she's talking about different tenants and stuff. The guy I spoke with earlier said about one time in a 2-month period, 4 different families moved in and then moved out. All back to back. He had heard from a previous tenant that something was going on in the house as well. Years back.
This used to be
this used to be a board and care home a few years back. A guy OD'd in this house. And he was told the guy was a registered sex offender. Now, the sex offender, I don't know if that's a fact. That's just what this guy was told by a roommate of another suicide guy. But evidently, or definitely, there was 1 death in this house. Now, I asked her if she had planned on trying to get a recording to investigate. That way, she's not actually investigating, just see if we can get the noise or hear anything about it. And then maybe send it to us and we'd go over it, but she never got back with me. It's probably been about 2-3 weeks, and I didn't hear anything, so I texted her again, and she replied, it's been a little quieter, but some nights are still crazy loud. I even hear voices now, and so have other people when they visit. I'm getting cameras for the outside just in case someone is out there and we hear that. Try to rule out the possibilities. Crazy, crazy stuff. And she didn't use the word stuff again. This happened just last week. I texted her again saying, hey, any more stuff? Because I'm interested, want to know what's going on here. And she goes, crazy stuff happening at the house today. Both times I left the house and I came home to something spilled on the floor. This afternoon, it looked like water. But just now, and she's got a bunch of exclamation points in there, look at this. And she sent me these pictures, and I wish I had these pictures. I mean, I can show them to you. But it's actually a picture of some like green liquidy something on the floor. And she goes, just look at this. It smells like potato peels or something. No pit, and then I asked her, well, do you have any pets? Is there a leak? Did something spill? And that's when she sent me all these pictures. And she goes, no pets, no leak, counter not close enough, and nothing on the counters to get knocked off. Box is where the spot was, and this she put it as a location reference. And I'll try and hold this up to maybe you guys can see that. The box is where the spot was. It looks closer in the pictures, but still there are chairs there too. Been hearing a lot of noises today. I was certain someone was here earlier when I was in the bathroom, but when I came out, the noises were all in another room. And I don't know if you guys can... Okay, so let's see. There we go. So there's the spills right there. And then if you look, the box is kind of like right over here is the box. So it's kind of like in the middle. You know, that's where the spill was. And this is kind of hard doing it backwards. There we go. So you can kind of see there was nothing there to where it could spill off, but twice now.
Well, I'm gonna talk on that. So then I take you back to she's talking about the house used to be a what was it for the addicts or what did she say?
Yeah, it was a board and care home, so kind of like a recovery home.
So my thought process, and I don't know any of the history on this, and this is what I was talking to you about. I would like to get some more history. I wish we could go out and actually investigate a little bit. But my thought process is, so you have a place like that, but if you have theories range on bad energy, negative energy, evil, if you will, that people in that type of situation are more vulnerable because they're at a weaker state of mind. Right. And I'm not meaning that for myself. I'm saying these are what theories that go. So something bad would try to attach to somebody that's in a weaker state of mind, which is, it's a whole psychology issue, that kind of stuff. But typically, so whenever you watch Ghostbusters and you get into like the ectoplasm and Slimer and all that kind of stuff, well, that actually really is a paranormal phenomena, if you will. It's a little less heard of, but typically, from what I know, and I wanted to get more information on the story, but typically it's usually manifestation that would harbor that, if that makes any sense. Now, I don't know what my thoughts are on it yet because that's starting to get out there.
Right.
However, if it's something that's happening based off of a negative manifestation or something like that, that's where my concern would be. And especially the house having history of having individuals that are at a point of vulnerability or, a weaker emotional state along those lines. That's where I told you, I was like, hey, you might need to get some more information on this and kind of get it more into the background of what's going on there.
Right. Okay. Let's see. All right, let's see. That's actually what it looked like. You can see how it's like green, almost brownish around the edges. So,
but there's nothing there. And and I would trust Stephanie as far, she's telling me, hey, there's nothing that it would have, because she would have been an analytical mind too. She would have said, hey, you know what? There was a box over here. It could have leaked out, ran across the grout joints, and here it is. But she's saying, hey, it's just out in the middle of nowhere. First it was clear. Now I come back and it's green. I've had all these things going on, stuff moving around. So anyway, yeah, and that's what I was telling you. I would like to look a little more into what's going on to see if there's something maybe be of potential concern.
Right, which is why I would love to be able to get her on a podcast or anything. But I actually did hear from her today. But she said she's tired, sleeping all the time, bored, which is why I haven't been able to get a hold of her. I'm like, that's understandable. Like, yeah. But those are some pretty interesting stories. I would love to be able to tell some more stories from other guests. We can do another podcast like this. So if you got stuff on there, and now that we have this capability to do Skype, we can actually Skype in someone if they wanted to talk with us about their story.
I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be. It would be.
Well, if you have your story you want to share, make sure you send that over to us. You can send that to us at
podcast@militaryparanormal.com.
You can call in and leave a message at 1-940-437-4MPI. And if you want to leave us a message or something, just let us know if you want us to use your name or not. And then if you want to be anonymous, we completely understand, and we'll make sure we keep that for you too.
Now, with us being all cooped up and stuff, I'm trying to get back to networking because that's the best way to find different groups. And when I was looking up, I found another paranormal group out in California because that's where Stephanie was at. So I figured maybe they could help her out. But basically, this one's called Central California, the Other Paranormal Society, and you can find them at www.cctops. That would be Central California, the Other Paranormal Society's initials, ghosthunters.com. And basically, they're just a group based out of Fresno, California. They say their main mission of the organization is to research and investigate paranormal phenomena. They hope to bring to the public an understanding of the spiritual realm, and hopefully through understanding a comfort zone between the living and those unseen that walk among us. You can contact them through email at peterdragon@cctopsghosthunters.com, mj@cctopsghosthunters.com, and you can also find them on Facebook at Central California, the Other Paranormal Society Ghost Hunters. Just another cool networking thing. Now,
sounds good.
We also normally do a tech, and the reason I picked this tech one is pretty much because of I've been watching paranormal shows because we were going to do a podcast on paranormal shows, and I've been watching the new Ghost Hunters. We started way back when, which is why everyone wanted to do Ghost Hunters. But during one episode, they were talking about one of the theories that I was talking about, how ultrasounds can mess with a body or a mind, kind of like Jeff gets very receptive to high EMF. Well, maybe it's not EMF, maybe it's a high-pitched sound and you're just receptive to that one. And they actually have they were using a ultrasonic detector with a precision microphone. And basically it was hooked up to a computer, and it had this microphone. It kind of looked like a wand, magic wand almost, and it was able to detect the high frequencies or the ultrasounds out there. And I just thought it was a great tool. Basically, it's the audible frequency range that people can hear is around 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, leaving ultrasound greater than the upper limit of the human hearing, things that we can't hear, or the infrasound, which is lower than the limit of the human hearing, as a possibility of the residual of ghostly voices, which is why we always carry a DAR, because we can't hear it, but a lot of times our analog or our digital equipment can take that ultrasound or that infrasound and record it onto the DAR. All sounds are produced by vibration in the body, so everyone knows that. So this is just even our voices it result in the vibrations of our vocal cords. The number of vibrations the body makes per second is called frequency, and it's commonly referred to as hertz. Ultrasound is defined as sound waves having frequency above the limits of human hearing or in an excess of 20,000 cycles per second, the hertz. So, by definition, ultrasound is totally undetectable by the human ears unless aided by instruments capable of translating that ultrasound to audible sound. If there's any items in a location that are putting off a lot of ultrasound, it can mess with the person's physical well-being. You can have hallucinations, even headaches, which is why I bring Jeff up a lot of times when that happens, because you get those headaches. I mean, even in the last home that we were in, I even felt a heaviness that I had to get out.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just thought this was a pretty cool tool to probably maybe get. What do you guys think?
Will that measure ultrasound or infrasound?
Does. Yes, it does.
Not because that's also one of the things that there are many animals that have an infrasound, like alligators, crocodiles. and it's a warning pitch. I think it'll put off this infrasound, which is lower than you're able to hear,
right,
like less than 20 hertz, I think.
Right.
And you can almost feel that vibration on it. Well, that's one of the things that they say that Bigfoot can do, is maybe to disorient you, because you get into that area. So yeah, it's one of the things that that's why I like to record everything. When we talk about, when we go out and we did that video on my bag, I keep that EDI, we keep a DAR, because we have all of that information: sound, pressure, temperature, humidity, the frequency of the sound. You look at that on an audio spectrum, you're able to do all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think that would be a great asset.
Cool. Like I said, I saw them using it, and I was like, ooh, I definitely want one.
Where can you find that at?
I sent the link, or I found a link. You can find them at Sweetwater. They're an electrical store. So it's a precision wand, and it basically looks like a magic wand, if you would. And then you hook that up to a audio cable hooked up to the computer, and then you can get real-time frequency. Like I said, it's on Ghost Hunters. I can't remember which episode. I'll look again and let you know. But that was an awesome episode, and I was like, ooh, I want one of those.
I wonder if that's something that we could incorporate into a parabolic. I'd have to see what the responsive range of that was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Alrighty.
That
was pretty good, Rob. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Well, this was a good podcast. I definitely enjoyed learning or hearing stories, especially of people going overseas, people in different areas. How you still have that paranormal activity happening, and it's almost the same thing, which is why they come out with the theories such as the Stones tape theory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's interesting when you talk about that. We can go hauntings, you can go to cryptids, you can go to UFOs. Wherever you go in the world, it's all there.
Mm-hmm.
It's all similar. It's all relevant. It's all so. Yeah, I think that I wish more people would realize that that these things occur, and maybe let's get it out of the closet. We talked about that on the little quickie one that you and I did a while back, Rob. If we could get this out of the closet almost and get it talked about more, maybe more research could be done efficiently, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well,
all right,
guys. I hope that in the middle of this crisis, I hope that everybody stays positive. I think that it's the key to getting through this. It's hard. You see all the memes out there, and you see all of the jokes, and we do the same thing. It's all to kind of keep a light heart. It's not made to be derogatory towards anyone. No. It's made to keep a light heart and that sort of stuff. I see a lot of the military memes, and we've all been in the situations where we, talk about hurry up and wait and that sort of stuff. And this is just an extended period of that. So it's just going to take us working together. Everybody staying inside. And we were doing some stuff earlier, and I know we had some technical issues, but one of the things that I wanted to make sure I said from a PSA point of things is, I'm on a bunch of overlanding forums and that sort of stuff. And these people want to go out and they want to go camping. They want to get out in the woods. They want to go fishing. They want to do that. But they go out and that's the best social distancing that there is. The thing to remember is if you go out, even though you have no intentions of getting out there and getting out and seeing anybody or doing anything, you're going to leave your house, go there, be by yourself and come back. But if you have an accident or if you have an emergency and now you've exposed first responders, and then you've been into a community that doesn't have a lot of exposure, but now you possibly carry it and you give it to those areas, and now you've spread it to that area that may be under-equipped to handle a large outbreak. Yeah. So that's the reason why it's important to stay home and to just kind of do your part at this point in time. And I certainly wish everybody the best. And I know this is hard. I know it's stressful to me. I think my biggest thing is worrying about the kids. So that's the hardest part on me. So again, I wish everybody the best. Wash your hands, stay at home, and we'll all get through this.
Yeah, it'll take time, but we'll get there.
And with you talking about first responders, Mike, my hat's off to all the first responses, all the doctors, nurses. You are definitely the front line. We military, they say we were the front line, but right now during this crisis, you guys are definitely the front line. And I want to give a hats off to one of a former member. She's a nurse right now in Ohio, Gina Norton. Way to go, girl. You keep up the good work. Hopefully we get to see you back here in Texas soon.
Yeah. So, what do we got for the future podcasts?
Well, we have the one you're working on, you and your daughter.
Yeah, my youngest daughter and I, she came up to me with the idea of exorcisms and how does the clergy that perform the exorcism, how does it affect them during the exorcism and also afterwards? So that's kind of something that we're doing some research on. So we're kind of excited about that.
I am too. I really want to hear about that one. That's going to be good to hear. Maybe we can find someone that actually has done an exorcism.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to find somebody that I can reach out to and ask if they'd be willing to talk with us about it.
Okay.
Interesting.
And another one we're working on is the Hawaiian podcast with Kevin. Giving us a little bit of not so much Hawaiian folklore, but more of a Pacific folklore.
An island.
What would they call it? The Polynesian Triangle, if you would. Mm-hmm. The different folklores all stay within there, and how they're all basically the same, but they change based on their circumstances, where they're at, but they basically have the same story, is what I wanted to look at.
We've been trying to do this now for like 3 months. Maybe we've angered the gods.
Well, that's one of them. You got to ask for permission. So
right.
that was one of them. You got to ask permission and say, hey, can we do this podcast? So
there you go.
Can we do this podcast?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And then, I'm actually working on one that I kind of talked to you guys about, and it has to do with the Men in Black. Not the TV show, not the comic book, not the movies, but how the Men in Black and with the UFOs, how they actually started, the origins of the Men in Black.
Interesting. I want to see the FBI reports you found.
Oh, I found all the FBI reports on that.
Nice. Exciting.
Very good.
All right. Well, as always, we'd like to thank you listeners out there for supporting us. As Mike said numerous times, please stay safe, wash your hands, perform that social distancing, and then in a short future, we'll get past all of this.
Yes. And don't forget, you can always find us on militaryparanormal.com, Podbean, that's the place to go, and all the social platforms that we have, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook.
All right. Well, you guys have a good evening, and we'll talk to you later.
All right. And for Allison, bye, y'all.
Night, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
And...
Thank you for listening to the MPI Paranormal Podcast. This podcast has been brought to you by Military Paranormal Investigations. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Don't forget to connect with us on Podbean, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Until next time, the truth is to be found.